wanted to share today with you a thought about reality, about the notion of objective reality versus subjective reality. That was something that was very big with me as an atheist growing up, things I was taught. It was something I gravitated towards, and I believed very strongly that there is an objective reality. In other words, a reality based on known facts. And there's a subjective reality, which is basically more or less opinions or feelings. And that's what I based my atheism on, that I believed that any notion of a spiritual realm was subjective. Because look at all the religions. You can just pick something and go with it. That's a very subjective thing. Whereas objective reality meant I observe things, I look at the forces of nature and the world, I observe them through my five senses. I can see, I can hear, I can taste, I can touch, I can smell, and I can think and add it all up together and come to what reality is in a kind of a mechanical or mathematical way. And I'm not claiming I'm going to solve that issue now any more than I might have thought I could have back then if you would have asked me. I just wanted to describe it or define it so maybe you who do watch this channel, the handful that do, might get where we're coming from, or at least how I see things as far as when I try to figure things out. I just want to give an example of someone who I believe quite often uses objective principles to figure things out, but like all of us, we're not just this blanket machine that does things the same way all the time. He can be subjective for practical reasons. And it's a person I listen to on the radio. He's a Jew. He's a devout Jew. And devout Jews believe, like the Bible teaches, that our God is one. He's an individual. And yet, for the sake of appeasement, for the sake of basically relating to a huge segment of his audience, probably over 90% of his audience. In other words, for the sake of attending to where his bread is buttered, as the old saying used to go, he uses the word Trinity. He calls something that he believes in called the American Trinity. And there's no reason to do that other than to subjectively decide that, oh, I have a reality. I got to make sure these people know I'm not a Jew who is against these Trinitarian Christians. So in a political sense, he uses a word that doesn't apply subjectively because it benefits him. And that's why we choose subjective things. So then it gets to be hard, because the old me would say, well, there's nothing here that you can write down on paper that proves to me that your God exists. And yet, since that time, I have encountered the spirit of this God. I have met him, and I'm growing to know him little by little, day by day. Sometimes in a leap and a bound, sometimes in, I don't want to say a dry season, but sometimes, it varies. And as in all relationships, the connection or the intensity can vary from time to time. Yet I know objectively, that he exists and that he's in my life. But it's independent of these five senses, so I can't prove it to you. So that goes to the whole notion of the personal nature of your Creator. He made it that way on purpose so that specifically no one can prove to you objectively, is in their terms or to your satisfaction from the outside, who he is and what he is doing in your life. Only he can do it. It forces you to have a personal relationship with him, an objective understanding of him that is so personal, it is actually independent of all the standard forms of objectivity, your five senses, and your mind, the way it thinks. They had the saying in the Old Testament, and every man did according to that which was right in his sight, or in his own mind. I'm paraphrasing, but that's something. And that was before God really, he had the law already, but there was no king, there was no authority, no ruling authority. So he started in with the judges and then eventually the kings, so that they would have this way of doing things. And it didn't work, but it was what we asked for, so that's why he gave it to us. We asked for some authority. We asked for some rules. We rejected the personal. We rejected the opportunity to just be, hey, it's me and my Creator. That's where everything starts. It starts from that. That's a scary thing to most of us. And he knows there's just a fact, there's a limited number of us who's going to choose that, who's going to want to actually have a one-on-one relationship with God and base everything else they do on that relationship with Him. It's not easy. It takes courage. It takes a certain amount of independence to do that, because every voice in the world is against that. Not just the so-called worldly world, but the church, which I call the worldly church. Because it is worldly, because it just takes the same systems of the world and applies them to a system of religion and calls that God. They call religion God. Religion is just a system of men. But to get back to it is the focus on the separation or the understanding of the definition between objective and subjective has changed for me. I can see that there is an objective truth that I can't prove to you, to your satisfaction. I can prove all kinds of other things in the physical world. We have science books for that, and we have our own observation. I can hear something, and I can go out into the world, and I can verify that by observing things objectively, and you and I can agree to those things by exchanging information. But I can't exchange the information of my God and who He is in that same sense. And then, like I say, that goes to the personal nature, and He designed it that way because He wants it to be personal. He doesn't want you to get it from another person, from a special building, from a special system of belief. He wants you to get it from Him directly. He won't allow anyone else to give that to you. Only He can do that. And that is the true objective reality, because all the rest is going to fade away. Even if the people that believe in science know it's all going to go away someday, they just define it in different terms, in their own subjective ways, because God doesn't say it's going to happen the way they say. Or maybe He does. Maybe it is going to be millions and billions. I don't really know that, but I know the realest thing, or the realest person that exists, is the one who created all this. So as real as this is, that means it's not as real as the one who created it. And that's the objective reality that I cling to, that I learn from that basis. It's not subjective. And it gets into all kinds of other stuff, how I can determine which truth is the truth. But it does go to the personal nature. That's how I can separate and know that it's not my religion that I know, it's my God that I know. So I'm not there trying to figure out which religion or which system is true. I know the person of my Creator. And yes, He is Jesus Christ. You say, well, you just picked Him. Someone else picked this one or that one, or Allah or Buddha, whatever. But you won't find the same things in those other gods that you will find in the one true God. We just suggest that you seek that you seek that from the standpoint of wanting to know the truth. Because that's what He said. Seek the truth and you will find me. That's what it's about. It's not about following rules. Yes, I understand He gave rules. He did give rules. But it was so you could see that you can't follow rules. You weren't designed to follow rules. You weren't designed to succeed in a system of rules. You were designed to function and succeed in a relationship with your Creator, in knowing your Creator, in having an interchange or an exchange with your Creator. So I shouldn't say don't. Now it's like I'm making commands. I'm not making a command. I just suggest that you seek that objective reality, that basis. Keep it as simple as possible. There is a God and there is no other. And get to, once you establish that and you get to know Him, all the other things will start to fall into place. It doesn't mean everything will always make sense and there will be no confusion, but you will always have a root and a grounding that you can go to that always makes sense no matter what. And you'll know that it wasn't just of your choosing because you had to pick some port in the storm. No, you know that you are in the right place when you are understanding who he is to the extent you can and seeking greater understanding of who he is. That is an objective truth. And then you won't need to appease people. So this person I listened to on the radio, he does that because he thinks that he needs to rely on that. And I'm not criticizing him, because I rely on the world to a certain extent, and I'm learning to become free from that. I'm learning to trust in my God more and more. Who does that perfectly? I don't think anyone does. I was just pointing that out because here's a person who knows their God is one, but yet will just subjectively compromise that belief for the sake of what he thinks he needs to do to put food in his belly and money in his bank account, when the word says that man will not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. And that's in his Bible, the Old Testament, as much as it is in my Bible, which is both the Old and the New. So that's a little lesson on objective and subjective reality. It's something that's interesting to check out for those of you who are into all these deep thought stuff. Just know that you do exercise one of those or both of them at different times, whether you call it that or not. You have a view on reality, and it may be totally subjective, and we counsel against that. You shouldn't base what you believe on subjectivity, on in essence whatever blows through the neighborhood at any given time. That's why he called himself a rock. It's not that he's a rock etched in stone and he doesn't have a personality that you can get to know and learn things about, but he's a rock in his stability and his faithfulness. You can always trust in him. His truths that he shares with you are they are foundational, and it's not that they are in stone, they are stone. They are the rock of your salvation. And when he told that to Peter, on this rock I will build my church, he was talking about what Peter said, that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, which in essence just means that God came here, God became a man, and he gave himself for us. That's the rock of all reality, from which all reality comes. You have a God, and he gave himself for you. That's the basis for all understanding. So if you don't have that, you're not going to get full understanding. You're going to be in the subjective realm, where you have to pick the best of all that's out there. And people do the best they can with that. They do. It's not a matter of good or evil or sincere or insincere, because you do the best you can with what you got. But if you have the rock, the objective reality that your God is, and there is no other, and he gave himself for you, then you have the most important thing any of us can have. In Jesus' name, amen.